Lawsuits, cancel culture, and even cult sacrifices. These are the 7 most controversial sneaker cancellations in history. Starting with a sneaker that Adidas and Pharrell got backlash for cultural appropriation. In 2018, at the height of the popularity of the collaboration between Adidas and Pharrell, they launched a brand new sneaker and clothing collection inspired by the Hindu festival Holi. The collection was named Hindu Holi and had items ranging from $50 to $300. To promote the release, Adidas dropped an advert where Pharrell himself went and participated in the festival. But that ad has since been deleted, because as soon as this collection got announced, people started arguing that the use of Holi, a deeply religious and cultural festival for commercial gain, was insensitive. People were quick to take offense to the release and point out the irony of charging $200 for a Holi hoodie that has tie-dye colors, when if you attend the festival wearing white, you get the same thing for free. Now, not everybody saw this as cultural appropriation, mentioning it's a bit of a stretch to call it out. But Adidas and Pharrell both had to respond to the backlash and emphasize that the collection was intended to celebrate the beauty and positivity of the Holi festival. I mean, honestly, they could have just called it the tie-dye range and none of this would have happened. Either way, one thing's for sure, Adidas and Pharrell have never dropped a Holi collection ever since. The next sneaker is one that instantly became a beloved shoe, only to have the entire collaboration crash and burn. Tom Sachs is a contemporary artist known for his unique approach to blending art and consumer culture. And in 2022, Tom Sachs and his art studio teamed up with Nike once again to release what would become one of their most popular creations to date, the Nike Tom Sachs general purpose shoe. Now, this sneaker was literally made for everyone. Sneakerheads in particular were super excited about this brand new release because they remember the first couple pairs that Nike and Tom Sachs did. They both had extreme hype. The Tom Sachs Mars Yard 1.0 currently goes for about $20,000 on the aftermarket, and the similar looking 2.0 will run you anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000. So the hype factor for the Tom Sachs GPS was definitely there. However, instead of a super limited hypebeast shoe that they dropped in the past, this one was made for anyone and everyone. It's an extremely durable, versatile, utilitarian shoe made for everyday wear that was also affordable. And after the first release, it was an absolute hit. The colorway sold out instantly. And with the success of the first colorway, people wanted more, so Nike decided to drop more colorways. However, before they could even put the 4th colorway on the market, allegations surfaced about Tom Sachs and his art studio's work environment. People described it as toxic and problematic. Multiple former employees came out of the woodwork, all accusing Tom Sachs of creating a hostile work environment, including claims of inappropriate behavior, verbal abuse, and demanding working conditions. According to the report, Tom Sachs is accused of labeling a storage room the room, later relabeled as the consent room. They accused him of throwing objects and screaming at employees. And the report also alleges that Tom Sachs frequently made comments about employees' appearance and sex life. One said, "I saw him throw a sheet of steel across the room because someone had left it in the wrong place." It's also alleged that Tom Sachs took a Zoom call video meeting with female employees in his underwear. Several former assistants quote Sachs using language like bitch and autistic to describe them, and the list goes on. Now, Nike's response to all of these allegations was placing the entire collaboration in suspension, and they have not released another Tom Sachs collab ever since. Now, Tom Sachs himself also eventually responded to all of the allegations. He wrote a letter apologizing and saying, I quote, "Over my 30-year career, I have never harassed anyone or tried to make anyone feel uncomfortable." Now, there was a ton of upcoming new colorways that had already been leaked and were in production at the time of this entire collaboration going downhill. However, they will most likely never see the light of day. Now, next up, we have a pair of shoes that isn't technically a sneaker, but is so wild I had to include it. In February 2019, Katy Perry released a brand new shoe line under her brand Katy Perry Collections. Now, as soon as I show these to you, you will immediately see the problem with them and why people were so outraged. Yeah, these shoes were called the Roo Face slip-on loafers. They featured a face design design with exaggerated features that many felt resembled blackface. Now, the timing of this controversy was particularly sensitive, as it coincided with heightened discussions about racial representation in fashion and media. So people immediately took to the internet in droves calling for this collection to be immediately removed. And it didn't take long for Katy Perry and Global Brands, the company behind the collection, to issue a response. They apologized and said that it was never meant to be offensive, and quickly cancelled the entire collection. Now, next up we find out what happens when a YouTuber gets sued by the world's largest footwear brand. On November 27, 2019, the FBI raided the home of a YouTuber known as Omar and a Hellcat, whose real name is Omar. They seized his car collection worth millions, his money in his bank account, and his jewelry.
They basically seized millions of dollars out of all my accounts. They took all the cash that I had laying around. They took all my jewelry.
You see, between 2016 and 2019, Omar was involved in a large-scale cable piracy scheme, which he and his partners created an illegal streaming service that sold access to premium cable content, including pay-per-view events for as little as $15 a month. In March of 2023, he was sentenced to 5.5 years in federal prison. He was also ordered to forfeit $30 million worth of his assets and had to pay significant restitution to both cable companies and the IRS. But the business venture that the FBI did not arrest him for was his brand new sneaker brand. It was called Reloaded Merch, and I guess the FBI just thought, hey, we'll leave this one to Nike. Now, a pair of sneakers from Reloaded looks very, very similar to a pair of Jordan 1s. Just replace the Nike swoosh with a lightning bolt. Reloaded also made plenty of different Nike dunk styles, all resembling the exact colorways of some of the most popular colorways that Nike offered. Now, making knockoff Nike shoes is definitely not new, and Omar and a Hellcat was definitely not the first. But Nike doesn't really care who you are. They have a very severe history of dishing out lawsuits left, right, and center. So in August of 2021, even though Omar and a Hellcat had already been arrested at this point, had his home raided, and $30 million worth of his assets seized, Nike hit him with a lawsuit accusing him of trademark infringement and counterfeiting. So who do you think won? Nike or the person in federal prison? Of course, Nike. And on April 19th, 2024, the New York court ruled that Omar and Reloaded Merch LLC violated Nike's trademarks and ordered to pay $8 million in damages on top of everything else. Now, of course, this includes the result that Omar and a Hellcat cannot sell any of these sneaker models that infringe upon Nike's trademarks anymore, thus pretty much canceling the entire brand. Now, next up, we got another example of why you should just not mess with Nike. In January of 2023, Nike filed a lawsuit against Bape. Now, just to make this clear, this lawsuit is very different to Nike filing a lawsuit against some bootleg brand making ripoffs of Jordans or Air Force Ones. Bape was founded by Nigo in 1993 and gained insane popularity in the early 2000s. Bape famously managed to leverage collaborations and endorsements with some of the most high-profile people and companies on the planet. Supreme, Coca-Cola, Marvel, Star Wars, Adidas, Jown, and celebrities like Pharrell Williams, Kid Cudi, Lil Wayne, Travis Scott, Drake, and Kanye West. Bape is not just some little brand, they are known globally. Now, of course, all of these collaborations and endorsements really helped build Bape's reputation. Bape's main appeal really lies in luxury, hype factor, and of course, scarcity. But the weird thing is that Nike saw Bape's designs and how they kind of looked super similar to their own. However, did nothing about it for over 20 years. Now, according to Nike, this was because Bape's US sales hadn't reached a point where it was actually troubling them. However, as Bape started ramping up production and producing more pairs to go on sale in the US, that's when Nike had had enough. Now, Bape attempted to fight this lawsuit, however, ultimately failed, leading to a pretty massive settlement which happened earlier this year. So Bape must now cancel and modify 5 different sneakers. The 3 pairs that Bape have agreed to completely stop making is the Bape Quartz High. Those infringe, of course, on the Jordan 1. The Bape Mid, which looks identical to the Nike Air Force 1 Mid, and the Quartz High model, which looks very similar to the Jordan 1 Low. Now, interestingly enough, they only have to modify 2 of their most popular silhouettes, the Bape Skatester and the Bapester Low. Either way, this is clearly a massive blow to Bape as a brand, and it could be a pivotal moment in the public perception of Bape moving forwards. Next, we have the one shoe that destroyed the most successful sneaker collaboration in history. Now, we all know the unfortunate and sad story of the Yeezy and Adidas collaboration coming to an end. But what if it wasn't just random, and Ye's mental health wasn't to blame for this collaboration crashing crashing and burning. Well, on Friday, September 30th, Ye got on the phone and called up the 3D printing footwear company Zellerfeld. He's on the phone to the CEO and he tells him how much he needs a specific pair of boots for his Paris fashion show happening on Monday. Ye details how he's been teasing this specific style of boot for years now and really needs the specific style for Monday. Now, Cornelius, the founder of Zellerfeld and the man on the other side of this phone, told Ye that they have never printed a boot before. But of course, this being an opportunity to work with one of the biggest names in footwear, they accepted. So they immediately got to work creating the exact boot that Ye envisioned. And somehow they not only managed to make these boots, but they flew out to Paris to hand over these boots to Ye himself. Now, what they didn't know at the time was that this wasn't a spur of the moment thing for Ye to want this specific boot for this specific show. Because along with him teasing these boots for years, he had actually been trying to get a working prototype from the companies that he had been working with. And the fact that he could call Zellerfeld up and they could have a prototype boot ready in under a weekend only added to his growing dissatisfaction with the brands that he was currently in contracts with. This also marked the beginning of Ye's journey to creative independence away from his partnership deals. Zellerfeld is known for giving designers a platform to create their own shoes whilst keeping roughly 50% of the profit. Now, in the conventional sneaker world, this percentage is practically unheard of. Ye's contract with Adidas only gave him 15% royalties from shoe sales, and all of this combined was the tipping point to what many people believe happened next: the deliberate escape from his contracts.
He was teasing those boots for years. He was struggling to get a prototype, and he had those problems quite often over the time. I think he realized how much freedom that gives you all of a sudden as a creator. You don't need like billion-dollar corporations anymore. You can be yourself as a creator. You can speculate. Maybe that was also the reason.
Now, only Ye really knows himself if everything he did was in fact deliberate to get out of all of these contracts, but it does make sense. The types of contracts he was in with Adidas or Gap often include strict terms and significant financial penalties for early termination. The controversies, while damaging to his public image and relationship, created immense pressure on Adidas and Gap to end things as swiftly as possible, resulting in the contract's termination. As promised, I have saved the most insane for last. Strap in for this one. It's March 1997 at a hilltop mansion in Rancho Santa Fe, California. There's a group of people gathering in ritual. All 39 members dressed in uniforms, which included black shirts, black sweatpants with patches reading "Heaven's Gate Away Team." And what was on their feet became one of the most eerie sneakers in history, the Nike Decade sneaker. You see, as bizarre as it sounds, this uniform was created purposely. It was to symbolize their unity and readiness for what was about to happen next. This group was known as the Heaven's Gate cult, and their leader, Marshall Applewhite. And on this day in March, he believed that they needed to leave their earthly bodies behind to board a spaceship following the Hale-Bopp comet. Now, to do this, they consumed a concoction of vodka and sedatives. Days later, all 39 members were found dead atop of that hilltop mansion, leaving behind an eerie image of their uniforms and most notably the Nike Decade sneaker, which all 39 members were wearing. Now, this tragedy caused significant public relations issues for Nike, and the company immediately ceased production of the Nike Decade sneaker model and pulled them from shelves to distance themselves from the negative connotations. Nike also released a statement sympathizing with the victims and their families and emphasizing that they had nothing to do with this cult. But the story had really only just begun for the Nike Decade sneaker model. Because of this tragedy, they became a rare collector's item. To this day, Nike Decade sneakers resell for thousands of dollars, all because of the tragic event that will forever be associated with this sneaker model. To check other crazy sneakers that got cancelled, click over there, or for some more controversial ones, click right over there.